only embrace the failures and the mistakes, but also try to learn from them and learn actually how to deal with them. So today we have 4 massively successful speakers who failed before, and the fact that they're here and exchanging what they have done in the past is actually a good indicator that failing once, twice, or even 3 times does not necessarily mean that it's the end of the road and everything is done. So basically it's just a new beginning for a new journey. But before we talk about the FuckUp Nights and then the failures, I would like to introduce you to the organization who brought you this event. But even before that, I need to go through some technicalities. As you can see, we have a QR code, which is meant to be scanned. If you can pull out your phones super fast, and I'm spending some time so that you can do it. And today we have Showzone, which is an ETA startup, and they aim to enhance their presentations. The way it works is quite simple. Again, you basically scan the QR code. Upon scanning, you'll be redirected to their web app, and we have a presentation on their web application. So there you can basically navigate through the slides. Even when we are forward, you can go back if you miss something. And the good thing is you can basically ask questions specifically to the specific slides. So I hope everything is good for you. I'll spend some more time so that you can finalize. And if they're all good now, I'll start to introduce the organization itself. I'll start to introduce. Okay, co-founder is okay, this is the first FuckUp. You see a live demonstration of how to make a FuckUp. Okay, co-founder, a big applause to co-founder Eren. Yes. Yes, that's right. So you said today we're in FuckUp Nights. I think I stopped relying on you. Okay, I'll stop relying on the remote and I simply introduce it. Yes, we talked about shows. Good. Let's talk about ETH Entrepreneur Club. What we do and how it all started. So basically back then, it was those 9 gentlemen with a very cool banner and a very cool inflatable castle in the background. And the fun fact about this is the logo actually means a startup because it's a start button and an up arrow. So I didn't understand that before. And this was 2011. Now this is us. So basically, you can see some changes. So sadly, we don't have the inflatable castle anymore. But we got a bit redder, let's say. And as you can see, we have more members with diverse backgrounds and who are motivated to cultivate entrepreneurship and innovation in Switzerland, starting from our university here in ETH. So every presentation needs some numbers, and let's bring up the numbers. So now we have 74 committee members. We organize 30+ events per year. In our incubator, we have 25, like more than 25 spin-offs and more than 35 startups in our incubator called FuckUp, which I introduced. And here, let me introduce you the board. So this is the, let's say, the team that are leading the cultivation of innovation. So basically, here you can see me. So maybe some of you already know me, but I would like to grab this opportunity to introduce myself as well. So for you, I think I'm the bottom right guy, the guy with the cat. I'm Sarkur, VP White in the ETH Entrepreneur Club, and today I'm very happy to present you this organization. So basically what we do to achieve our goal, we have 3 main pillars, so 3 main goals. So first we inspire the ones who are interested in building their ventures by events, and we encourage them to take the first step. Then we educate those people who took the first step, and we try to equip them with the necessary skill sets. Then once they have the courage to build their ventures, we accelerate them and their ventures by providing some benefits, organizing some events. And how do we do this concretely? We have a various numbers of events and some initiatives. First, we have FuckUp Nights. We'll talk more about this, but here we embrace we always say wise man learns from their mistakes, but wiser men learn from the mistakes of others. So I hope we are all wiser men here and women. Then we have the InCube. This is basically a global innovation challenge where we have 5 participants for each cube, and those participants are confronted with a challenge proposed by one of our sponsors. And they try to solve this challenge, and the cubes are literally all around the world with the diversest participants. And even before this challenge itself, we equip them with necessary skills during OutCube, and we even try to help them after InCube itself so that they can build their ventures. Furthermore, we have the Launch AI plus X Summit, which we co-organized this year with ETH AI Center and ZHV. The goal this year basically to bring the whole ecosystem together. We had more than 2,000 participants. You can encounter with students, with corporate partners, startups, incubators, VCs, investors, you name it. And what we do there is we introduce some workshops, panel discussions, keynote speakers, so that people can get inspired, but as well as get educated on those topics. Furthermore, we have the Boost to accelerate the startups. So there we pre-select 10 startups, and for 3 months we give mentoring and workshops, and at the end we have basically a pitch competition, and the prize for this pitch competition is $25,000, which can be used for incorporation. Then we have startup speed dating. This is, I think it's quite self-explanatory. We have a speed dating session, and we have 30 startups, 120 students. We have 10 rounds. Each student gets to see 3 to 4 startups. And the good thing about this is they get the chance to see the people in person. I think in startups it's very important that the people can work together, and this is a great way to introduce people. Then we have Join Up, which is one of the biggest initiatives that we have. This is basically Switzerland's biggest startup jobs platform. We have 960 plus startups, 900 plus jobs and co-founder listings. Then we have more than 15,000 job seekers, and it's a huge platform. The good thing about this is tailored specifically for startups. So basically here we have the startups. And the difference here and the other job platforms is the mentality here is different, because the mentality working in startup versus companies. Then finally we have our incubator called Rocket Up. This is basically a co-working space, but we offer more than shared desks. We also offer some exclusive offers from our supporters, as well as the mentorship opportunities from their beginnings. And of course, I would like to grab the opportunity to thank our sponsors who are making all of this possible. So please, a round of applause to our sponsors. To provide foods and drinks, to our internal as well as external partners for helping us with our events and helping us cultivate innovation. So again, this is us in launch, and this is basically it about ETH Entrepreneur Club. Now, I would like to give the microphone to Anina. I mean, not physically, still.
Some of you are here tonight to learn from the mistakes of others. Some of you are probably here for just having a good laugh, and some of you, I assume, have only the slightest clue on how they ended up here or what this event is even about. Whatever the reason, welcome to our second FuckUp Night of the year. My name is Anina. I've been part of the ETH Entrepreneur Club for 3 years, and together with our Vice President of IT, Sapa, we will moderate the next 1.5 hours and help bring you closer to 3 stories that combine courage, dedication, and, well, fuck-ups. Fuck-ups, or in more diplomatic terms, failures. I think failure terrifies nearly all of us. And I would argue that nearly all of us would agree that failure is a stepping stone on the path to success. All of us in this room tonight have failed at one point or another. the ones we've made up in our very own heads. But here's the twist. What if those very expectations are the ones who prevent us from seeing value in failure? I mean, it's kind of a paradox, isn't it? Because don't we as humans fail to see failure as useful? I would say that it's exactly through missteps that we learn to dance, and it's exactly through stumbles that we discover the strength to rise. And so what if we could all just shift our perspectives? Together, let's reframe our minds, our organizations, and our strategies. Let's move through failure with resilience, and let's challenge this idea that failure is a sign of weakness. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I invite you to reconsider our conventional way of seeing failure. One that embraces failure as a signpost of courage on our road to success. And so with this, I would like to introduce our very first speaker of tonight, Leif Lemmenschøl. I think that was right? All right. He's a visionary entrepreneur and a seasoned professional. He has an impressive career spanning various industries and continents. He's currently the co-founder of Chewing Gum, the first chewing gum from trees, plant trees. He's also co-founded two other startups, FuckUp and Statement, and he has a very rich history in the beverage industry. He co-founded Focus Water in 2012 and Focus Fluid in 2015, and for nearly 11 years, from 1995 onwards, he worked for Red Bull USA. Most notably, he was Director of Business Development and Motorsports Marketing. Ladies and gentlemen, please a big round of applause and welcome Leif tonight.
Well, thanks for the introduction. She already said it all. I don't know what to add to it, but I showed some pictures. I was told the pictures are good. The first presentation I sent was no pictures, no numbers either, just words. And my guy here told me, put in some pictures, students like pictures. So, who? She already introduced me, not much to say. I am Leif Lemmenschøl. I have a funny name because I'm from Sweden originally. My father used to study at the ETH, he got here in the 60s or something. I grew up here in Zurich, studied at St. Gallen, and as already pointed out, that was the first Red Bull entry in 95, when Red Bull was finally permitted in Switzerland. Then 4 years Red Bull USA. I was involved in various fuck-ups and startups also. 4 of them were really going down, and until then, the 4th startup, Focus Water, I launched in 2012. I quickly built it up, not alone of course, it was a team of partners and all that, until we could sell Focus Water. I don't know if you know it, everybody, sell it to Rivella. So there was a little exit there, which always is a nice thing to do as an entrepreneur. Now we launched the FuckUp Venture Studio. So still dealing with FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods, and mainly beverages. So I'm really a beverage guy, don't know much more really. But I tried some more also within the FuckUp Venture Studio. We, for example, launched the Chewing Gum, plastic-free chewing gum. I don't know who of you knows that all chewing gum are actually made of plastic. Pretty disgusting if you think about it. So the original chewing gum comes out of nature. It's before plastic ate up the world. The chewing gum was actually made from a chicle tree, sapodilla tree from jungles. And then another example is Man Make a Difference, which I will talk about more. No, so why am I here? Well, 3 reasons. I want to promote Matt, my new beverage maybe. I didn't tell them, that was the main reason, of course. The second reason is I hopefully will grow the company, also startups, and hopefully need some of you guys to come help join the fast-moving consumer goods world. I know you're number-driven people. We don't do numbers very well, but we try to create food and beverages. Everybody eats and drinks every day, so it's a very emotional, nice area to be in. And of course, I really love fuck-ups. And that's not only said for today, I really am a big fan, for various reasons. Now, what's the definition of a fuck-up? She already said it, failure. I took the definition that was a bit broader. of course, there's different kinds of fuck-ups. Just using the picture, the input from Marco, getting pictures in here. I looked at differentiation, and this is what came up. I don't understand what this. I hope you do. I guess you can argue what it is. But there is, of course, differentiation in fuck-ups. There is the size, big fuck-ups and small fuck-ups. You all know the small ones. You basically content and say for something that's maybe important or not important. So if you miss a train and you have to job interview for your lifetime and you miss that job, you don't get a job because you missed the train, then of course the consequences might be bad and your whole life is fucked up then. But the same train missing might not matter at all because you just come 10 minutes late to the training or something. So it's very different. And the most effects, and I don't want to small talk the bad effects. Of course, there's fuck-ups that are really bad, that happens, but most fuck-ups are actually not as bad as one thinks in the first place. And that's, I guess, the point of tonight also. Lots of fuck-ups turn out to be a good thing. Life is full of fuck-ups. Life is fucked up, and the point is that life is not a bad thing, even though it's full of fuck-ups. It's just about how you deal with them every day, how you embrace those fuck-ups, and how you move forward with them. You all know in fuck-ups, it's everything. The toothbrush that falls down when you brush your teeth, or you stumble up the stairs, or you go skiing and you fall. These are the little fuck-ups, and that's part of life, and it's important to have them. So if you're going to fuck up, that's the picture I found again, thanks to Marco. All the pictures is thanks to Marco here. She forced me to put pictures in it, else we just how are fuck up then good? I mean, it's pretty obvious also, you all know it. It's the good old glass is half full or half empty. That's the first thing. You can always say, okay, the pessimists and optimists. And even the worst fuck up, if you're an optimist, you can say, well, it's not so bad because you always find good reason why something actually looks better than it looks at the first place. Fuck-ups are surprising, and everybody likes surprises, right? Surprises are nice, if they're good surprises, but also bad surprises if you turn to be good ones. They force you to act, to do something differently. They force you to fight and push you out of your comfort zone. And if you look back now, what you tell your friends when you tell them a story, it's always things outside the comfort zone. So actually, the be outside the comfort zone, that's where life happens. From fuck-ups, you're supposed to learn. Not do the same fuck-ups all the time. That's my dad, who was an atheist, always said that. Said there's difference between clever people and stupid people. Stupid people do the same fuck-ups every time, and clever people do new fucks all the time. New fuck-ups all the time. So that's I know what's better. Fuck-ups give you experience, the learnings, the experience, they lead you to new directions. You have to force to do something else, which often turns out then to be good in a second. In the moment, you don't think it's good, but turns out to be good. And also, if you want to have good luck, you need to accept bad luck. You can't be lucky without being unlucky. If you go in the casino, they put your everything on red, and then black is coming, then it's bad luck. But if red is coming, then it's good luck. So it kind of goes with like love and hate, luck and unluck, fuck up, and doing something well. It's part of it. It's part of everything. As I said already, also the good fuck-ups provide for good stories. That's the stories you tell at the end. The things you remember are the really nice fuck-ups that stress you out a little bit at first, but that then you can actually become go at peace with. So the fuck-ups really are the spice of life. Without the fuck-ups, life would be boring. Let's face it, everything goes as planned. How boring. You die at the end, so what happened? I don't remember anything because everything just went as planned. Plans are boring. So, I was saying, promote my drink, here we are. I have 3 fuck-ups I want to go through in 3 beverages. This is just new. We launched this beverage in September. We decided to do it, and we decided to do it in June. We had to deliver the product to the Google Center here in end of September. So we didn't have much time. And it's a beverage, a new generation beverage. Google wanted to be plastic free, so we said, okay, we'll do a plastic free PET bottle, something in an aluminum can. with a special content and a special twist. It's more sustainable, it's plastic free, it's got a great taste. But the problem is we had to fill really quickly, we didn't have much time. It was really, every day was, we were supposed to really deliver to the end of September. The nitrogen filler was broken. And when you fill cans, they're not very thick, they're very thin, and if you have a still beverage in here, you have to fill the rest with gas, else the pallet, the cans collapse with the weight, because it's very thin. So to make them stable, you have to fill them with gas, with nitrogen. And so the guy said, oh, the nitrogen thing is broken. I said, yeah, what are we going to do? Well, we won't be repaired till January. I said, yeah, well, that's not good. So what can we do? So let's put a little bit of carbonic acid in it. You won't feel it. It's not fizzy at all. It's just it's like as still as it's supposed to be. It's not fizzy at all. But so we got them. We got them delivered to Switzerland. We drank them and they were super fizzy. I mean, we got fizzy drinks, even though it said still on the can. You know, it's not a good thing. But turned out, actually, fizziness is a great thing that can happen. We didn't want it, but it happened, and we actually was lucky. But then the trucks go from Belgium, where we produce, to Switzerland, because we want to be plastic free. We told them, well, put them in the trays, and put the trays without the plastic on the pallets, and bring them here. Then we came here with a big truck with 40 pallets, whatever, huge, and then we opened the truck, and it was a big mess, because those things were sliding. It wasn't logistics proof, and the whole truck was full of broken cans. You can imagine what that was. The open truck was a disaster. Thousands of cans, we had to pull them up, weekends and weeks of work. We had to all hand pick almost the cans. We had to reorganize carton boxes. We had to put them by hand in carton boxes so they could deliver everything. So it's a really fucked up situation, but now already just 2 months later, I laugh about it. I said, that was pretty intense. It's really intense and really fucked up, but now it's not the bad thing. Second fuck up was 15 years earlier. I just saw the El Tony logo up there, though I didn't know they were sponsored. And that's why we have, here we go. Also the Tony drink. So Exa Energy. The guy who founded Exa was Roland von Moos. And he was a Red Bull guy. He was the head of Red Bull Europe. I was doing it in Switzerland. And he then left Red Bull, and Red Bull selling in Switzerland alone 100 million cans. 100 million, which is a lot for Switzerland. But no one seems to like Red Bull. So 100 million cans of a drink that no one likes, no one wants. And we thought, well, that's odd. Let's just create a beverage that has the same functionality as Red Bull, not coffee, but that's natural and has a different, less chemical taste. We should get 2, 3, 4% of the 100 million easily. So we had the right people, a lot of money. The guy, the Red Bull guys, did something, they know how it works. The investors came in, they put millions on the table. The product ingredients was good, the filling was good, distribution was top. We got into co-op at once because the Red Bull guys came and paid on the listing fee. Marketing was top, everything top. No one bought the bloody product. No one even looked at it. It just sat there like rocks. No one would want it. Well, of course, there's reason now afterward why that happened. But then it was a super disaster. Millions were burned. I was not the founder. Roland was the CEO. I left the company. I had to leave. He kind of stuck through. He sold his house next to the lake. He lost millions, he was suffered, he ate dust for years and years and years, but it forced him to survive and to go some other way. And now, solution conclusion, he launched Tony Mate just a few years later. And which now, you all know it, it's sponsoring the ETH, not a thing, and he's selling, I don't know, like 20, 30 million, but quite a lot. But if that hadn't failed at the beginning, and had maybe just done some good business, but not brilliant business, then it would not have come to this, and this is a real success story. So just a huge, huge different way than he thought, and it was really not easy for him, but the end result is perfect. So very happy that happened. And I was part of the IXO as well, and then he survived for years, and he then launched this. But that's his. I don't take any credit for this. But I was part of the beginning of the story. Fantastic story, I like it. Great product also, you like it? Next example, of course, at the back in history was then 20 years earlier. It's about, this also stands here, how funny. I drank this because I was so tired. Red Bull, you know Red Bull, right? You know the story of Red Bull? Some of you, was an Austrian guy, he had was a toothpaste salesman in Asia. He found this Asian Red Bull, was called Kateng Deng or something. He talked to the family there and convinced them to give him the raw material to create a beverage in Europe. And so what he did, he took the same raw material that's still used in Thailand, and he added water, he added carbon acid, made it fizzy. He added the can, the blue and silver can, but the logo and the Red Bull is still the same as in Thailand in the 60s, 70s. And he started to launch it. And here happened the big fuck up that actually led to the biggest success story in beverage history, and that's only my theory today. This was I telling you now, it's not proven, it's just a theory, a personal theory, because I only started work for Red Bull in 95. But in 91, I was then about your age, probably most of you were not born when this happened. It was dark days in Zurich then. Dark days because all the bars closed at midnight. There's very few closed at 2 o'clock, and everything was shut after 2 o'clock at night. So you couldn't party through till like now till 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. Impossible. So the consequence of that was there was lots of illegal bars. If you had to know where they were, and they were in the cellar, hidden away, you couldn't hear them from outside. And there's lots of illegal bars, and since everybody was smoking inside them, people went out to actually get some fresh air, because there was no illegal bars, don't have any air conditioning. You can imagine everybody smoking inside, no air conditioning. So you go out on the street to get some fresh air, and there's also guys out there selling some kind of drugs, like still now, I guess, and it was always like this 1 gram of hash for 10 francs, or some kind of acid pill for 10 francs. And so there was a guy selling a can of Red Bull for 10 francs in 91. What's that? So we bought a Red Bull, let's try something new. And then we opened the can and passed it around like a drug, you know. Really. And then I said, honey, you feel something? Oh, yeah, it's great. And it took from, that was in 91, and so the illegal bars, and there was thousands of kids driving through to Austria to buy Red Bull and sell it for high price in Switzerland. And only in 95, beginning of 95, it was not forbidden, but it was permitted then. The problem was it didn't get permitted at the beginning, was Cokes at the caffeine level in soft drinks. And Red Bull has double caffeine level of Coke, so it just had to get through the approval process. And that's the story. So by the time in 95 it finally started, the same story happened between 86 and 90 in Austria. It was forbidden for the whole time. And that is the big fuck up. So when Mataschitz launched his product, he didn't know, he thought he just created a product that he put on shelves, it's going to sell well. But no, he couldn't sell it at all. It was illegal. It was illegal in Austria first, then in Switzerland, and in France it was illegal till 98, I think. But that being illegal for years and years and years, which is a huge fuck up. It messes up everything. Nothing is ever apparent. But that, of course, is the basis for the successful Red Bull story. Because like being illegal, underground, cool, almost dog-like, all the teenagers and everybody loved it, is something that marketing money cannot buy. And so this fuck up, not looking at the legal situation in Europe, led to the biggest success story in beverage history. Of course, afterwards, lots of good marketing was done, everything was done the right way. Marketing, etc. So that's why Red Bull is still now an institution. But the basis for the success, I think, was laid in this 5 years of illegal. So in year 1, we sold 9 million cans, year 1, with a brand that no one knows. That's impossible. So everybody knew it. Everybody wanted it. It came on the market and it just flew off the shelves. So this is the biggest success story in beverage history. This is the biggest fuck up in beverage history. So go out and fuck things up. It'll be great. So just a big conclusion after this. You've already said it also. I mean, fuck ups are life. Learn to deal with fuck ups. That's life. Dealing with things that are difficult. Embrace fuck ups because they always have a good side also. Learn from fuck ups. And if the fear of fuck ups is preventing you from being entrepreneurial and or taking reasonable risks, then that is fucked up. Thank you very much.
So now it's time for you to ask questions. If you have questions, you can ask the questions. But for me, for instance, I have a question. So you mentioned that you were a beverage. What's the good thing about local beverages? Like, what's the good thing about?
Well, I like drinking.
Oh.
I love drinking more than eating. And no, but it's something I've always actually liked beverages. I tried to do studies. I tried to launch a beverage. It was a vodka with licorice vodka, which was big in Sweden. It's no one wanted it, so it was a big failure too. So I found a lot of failures, and again, we always move forward with them. The first Red Bull jump was a coincidence also I got. I was supposed to do something like something good and something real in my life. I took a summer job. It was just Terminator 6 months. 6 months I started, let's do that until I found a real job. And the real job, and here I am now, still not having a real job.
And how about like other differences between producing canned beverages, like the bottled ones, or are they having the same pipe?
The cans or the PET bottles?
Yes. Or like
it's fillers. It's like bottling companies, they bottle glass, aluminum, Tetra, whatever, and they have the machines and they put any beverage into any packaging. Now, of course, with sustainability, people are lots of plastic averse, getting more and more. Aluminum is, of course, eating a lot of energy also for production. The advantage of aluminum versus plastic is that if you recycle it, you can recycle this endlessly. Whereas plastic, you can only recycle it 2 or 3 times. Then you can make a t-shirt out of it, and then it's dead. This stays the raw material is recycled. The most sustainable will be glass that is circular glass with transport less than 15 kilometers. Because the transport glass is heavy and transport is expensive too. But the packaging is environmentally, it's a very big problem generally for convenient, ready to drink, ready to eat things. Packaging is not it's difficult. But we think now aluminum is better than plastic.
Good, then we have some more questions from the audience. So one of the good questions was, how did the guy from Antonio Mate got the money for a second try after winning?
That's a good question. He didn't. Well, he did actually. He did. But he first so IXO was dead, and then he went launched Monday energy drink. I don't know if you've seen it, Monday. And Monday was like a really Red Bull copy, cheap Red Bull copy. And he survived with that. So he could sell some of that too, and it wasn't an alternative, it was just a cheaper version. And that made him survive, and then launched the IXO, the Bruni. And then he didn't launch the same way we launched the IXO. He launched much more bootstrapped, just grow it step by step. Like also Focus Water, we didn't have lots of money, you don't always need money. If you have money, it's basically the fire burns faster. It's like putting gas on the fire, but the fire needs to burn, so there's no point to put gas on the fire when there's a fire. And you can also grow a small fire without gas, if you have, it just takes longer. So money is just an accelerator. It doesn't solve the problem, it just accelerates the process in consumer goods.
Thank you so much. And another interesting question was, were you approached by Rudera to buy Focus Water, or did you look? So what was
No, well, I was in contact with the CEO, and he told me that Rivella, they're having a hard time, soft drinks go down, too much sugar, very traditional. So in 2016, they built out their own strategy to survive long term. They need to innovate, they need to cooperate, they need to acquire. So they built a business development team, which they built the M&A agenda, and they scanned the Swiss market for who could be a fit. And then Focus Water was one of the companies that they thought that could be a good fit to Rivella. And then they approached me, but I was in touch with them anyway, but also growing and small. So they approached me then because of their new strategy.
Thank you so much.
Any other question?
Maybe last two questions. In general, one maybe like what decision you didn't take do you now regret not taking?
Not really. I mean, it's stupid to regret things. It just should be that. Of course, there are things that you said, if I had done that differently, it would have been better. But I don't want to think about it or regret it either. You know, you kind of learn from it, yes, but. Yeah, and the shareholding structure, that's always difficult. Sometimes you have shareholders that don't fit and you start fighting with them, and also often personal level or people you are together with and you build something up. When it turns bad, it's not cool, and then you think, oh, I should have known that it's not going to work. So it's often people things that are annoying in the aftermath, but I don't think that.
Okay. So we have let's say the last question from Elon Musk, the guy who is happy. So when are you going to produce beer?
When am I going to produce beers?
Or
That's a good question. Actually, just today, really just today, I talked to a guy and he owns a beer brewery in Valais, in Monte, and they launched a beer brand and they're looking for help somehow. And the guy just said today, nothing has happened, but we could swap shares between the man and a beer brewery, so hopefully soon.
Good. I'm quite sure some people from audience would love it, so if you have an event that we can bring it.
Yeah, go ask the Mensa about it. Introduce man.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for
Thank you also, Salva, for the interesting questions. Let's shift our focus to the next speakers of tonight. We have two women. We have Shannon Almeida and Bianca Pazzerini. Shannon worked as a consultant before co-founding two startups, and Bianca worked at EBS before also co-founding two startups. These two women have been through the Snap. Have co-founded together Gold Retail. They have come all the way from India and the UK to tell us about their fuck-ups tonight, and so please give them a really warm welcome.
Sorry guys, hold up.
Hey everyone, thanks for being here. Grateful to be here right now. I'm the co-founder of Vault, and hi guys, I'm Bianca, also the co-founder of Vault. So just to tell you a little bit about what Vault does, We are an anti-social media app. We curate interesting content from across the internet and deliver that to you as 9-second reads using AI, just so that you can be updated in a few swipes without having to do a scroll on social media. So let's get started. When you talk about a startup, you usually talk about your shiny wins, right? For us, we've been backed by Snapchat. We've got 35 million stories run the app on Business Insider. We got Ball featured on a billboard in Times Square for free. And this is how people usually introduce us. And it's how we talk about ourselves when we pitch. But, you know, building Valve and launching this company has really been one big fuck up. And it's not just been one fuck up, it's been a series of fuck ups that have one common factor.
So let's put things into perspective. I'm sure all of you have heard about Aloe Yoga, $100 yoga leggings. And you really wonder, it's such a simple, basic product. Why? And then on the flip side, you think about a product that's very useful. For me, that's an app called Ringtone. Every time I talk about it, nobody knows what it is. And so, again, I wonder, this product is so good, why don't people know about it? The answer to both those questions is community. Community can make you, and the lack of it can break you. We didn't realize it at the time, but every major fuck-up was because of the lack of community. And once we found that, it just led to more and more wins. So let's get into it.
So let me paint a picture for everyone. Priyanka and I don't come from a tech background. I come from law, she comes from finance. So, you know, we weren't the typical Stanford, MIT pedigrees from Silicon Valley either. We really didn't have technically the network nor the experience to build Valve. And we didn't even have any friends. And building a startup is so intense. Sorry. We have building a startup is pretty daunting, especially in our case, given that we probably weren't that confident either. So we didn't want to talk to anyone. We didn't want to network with anyone because we thought that they were going to judge us. And we didn't even want to talk to anyone about Valve before we had a ready product because we thought they were going to steal our idea. And we didn't even realize that, your idea is shit without execution, and your idea is 95%, execution is 95%. And so what we did was, while the product was being built, devs are coding, we thought, we got an impression that, there's no way to do marketing before your product is ready. Isn't that what you see in all these marketing campaigns? You see an actual product, whether it's an app or it's makeup or shoes. We decided to do a lot of research on growth strategies, specifically things like posting on Reddit, reaching out to tech bloggers, all those blog posts I tell you about go-to-market strategies. We had an entire detailed Excel sheet. But what we didn't realize was that to even get featured by a tech blogger, you need to have some kind of social media presence. And we have 200 Instagram followers. So if you didn't realize by now, we were fucking up a lot.
So the day has finally come. Our app is live on the App Store and Play Store. We didn't just launch an MVP on test flight, we went ahead and built 2 beautiful products for both platforms because how can the Android people not experience it, right? And so we have this beautiful product. We're really proud about it. It looked amazing. It worked amazing. Typically people saw it and they're like, we must have spent $1 million on it. We didn't. We had barely any users, about 15, friends, family, team members. This is literally everyone. So that's when we decided, okay, we have a cool product. It looks amazing. VCs really care about product, right? And then if we have an impressive product and we've spent barely any money making it, VCs would be really impressed and they'd give us the money right away to grow. That was a major fuck up. a terrible idea, and if you ask anybody, that's an absolute no. There's an entire strategy when it comes to fundraising. Who you approach, how much you share, how you build momentum. We didn't do any of that. We cold emailed like 100 VCs, including the top ones. And we didn't realize we were fucking up in the moment because we were also getting on calls with some of the best VCs. How can I be fucking up if I'm getting on a call with them recent? So we continued. And then we think of like, where to go and get quick connections. So I thought of college. I stayed at the University of Southern California in LA. So I reached out and they invited me for a demo night. It was the first moment of validation. It was amazing to be back, sharing what you built in front of faculty, friends, and investors. As soon as I got down from stage after pitching, and we also won a cash prize, so that was amazing. But the highlight from this event was the guest speaker who talked about, taking chances, shooting your shot, coding in that 1% who could change everything for you. So I went home determined to email Mark Cuban because he spoke a lot about news publications at that time. And so found his emailed him really quick, and then I didn't really expect much, but within a few minutes itself, I had an email from Mark Cuban. What do you want and what's in it for me? I was thrilled. I called Shani immediately, like, what is going on? And obviously we shared a bunch of emails back and forth, but what it ultimately boiled down to, and what the other investors also wanted to see, was traction. Mark Cuban actually wanted to see hockey stick growth, which we clearly didn't have. And that's when we realized we really fucked up.
So we kind of realized we needed a lot of traction. So we needed users, staff. So we decided to launch on Product Hunt. And we posted everywhere to get those uploads, like Instagram and Twitter. And one thing about Product Hunt is that it thrives on its community. The only way to climb the rankings is to get its active users to upload, even comment on it. But obviously we knew no one. So I remember even our Twitter post asking people to upload for us. We got 2 likes, one from me and one from her. And we were obsessively tracking the other stars that I posted on Product Hunt that day, and they were racking in retweets and comments and likes to up to hundreds. So it was clear we didn't know about these tech communities on Twitter, and we clearly didn't make it to the top 5 on Product Hunt, and so we were fucking up again. So it's clear that we didn't have any community, something that every successful startup always has had. Take, for example, Glossier. Emily Weiss had built an entire community of women talking about natural and clean makeup. And when it was time for her to launch her own makeup brand, she had this whole arsenal of women who were there to rally for her and buy her products. And us evolved to literally anyone, so much so that it led to the biggest problem any startup could ever face. We had a ready app with no community.
So we're still looking for quick wins. And then we started analyzing what worked so far. The night at USC, the demo day, was really good. We got a lot of downloads, a lot of leads, so let's look at more events. And then I stumbled upon Indie Hackers, which is a tech event in LA. Went to one of those, pitched both, got a lot of feedback, a lot of downloads too. And people were really supportive, and I was really impressed. This is cool. I'm gonna stay close and follow this community. And then one day I was on the newsletter, and it talked about looking for content on tech. And so I reached out immediately. And so I joined this community-focused co-working space called The Wing. And the first day itself, I met this woman. She was completely sounding fun. We just got talking. Randomly, weeks later, she emailed me saying, "You should apply for Snapchat's accelerator and definitely sign up for office hours with the program director who happened to be a friend." I did. But then again, Snapchat was looking for 10 companies from across the world. What were the chances? But we applied and we got in. We were one of the 10 companies, which was amazing. And that they had. So the more people you talk to, the more people you share your problems with, the more leads you get. And so we started going to more and more tech events. And we realized what a world of a difference it made when you get on a call with, say, an investor through Mutual Connect. And if you put yourself in their shoes, as an investor, who would you invest in? A random person in your inbox, or somebody your friend or colleague is vouching for? It's extremely clear.
So, for Twitter, I think one DM changed everything for us. We got a DM to our Evolve Twitter account from this founder who had discovered Evolve on Product Hunt, actually. He DM'd us saying that he built the app and he was down to give us feedback whenever we wanted, which was awesome. I ended up getting on a call with him that lasted for an hour, and his only feedback was that he's like, you need to be on Twitter. He's saying everyone that he had met, his advisors, his investors, his users, were from that app. So I get on Twitter, and not only am I blown away by this entire tech ecosystem that clearly existed, but I was genuinely, I just couldn't believe that we had built an entire product without even being on this platform. So I ended up staying close friends with this founder, and last year, a week before South by Southwest, he managed to get Priyanka and I to Austin. And at this point, I'm slowly getting on Twitter and I'm learning how to DM founders, and so as soon as we get to the hotel, I get a DM from one founder who says, if you're in South by Southwest, I'm hosting a founder breakfast in 45 minutes. Can you make it? We obviously went. And we ended up meeting this incredible group of people who ended up being some of our really close friends till today. It led us to joining amazing communities like Launch House. We made a ton of tech friends. And these tech friends actually got us that billboard on Times Square. And so for us, everything changed just because of like one DM from one founder.
So when you're starting out, it is extremely daunting in the first few days. Like you are crumbling for everything, it's trial and error, and chances are you're not going to have experts in every field on your team. You're going to have to do things you've never done on a daily basis. And so looking back, we did so much trial and error, and we fucked up so much that it was only later on that we realized emailing people out of the blue, the experts in their field, people who've been there, done that, could have changed everything for us and avoided all those like fuck-ups. Even going back to Mark Cuban, for example, he didn't invest in us, yes, but he had a lot of experience in the media industry, and so he actually downloaded Evolve, and then he realized that the content was so serious, it had to be younger to appeal to the younger generation. And so when he gave us this advice, we pivoted. We started including a lot of content, like what's trending across all social media platforms. And today, that's become one of our USPs and the most, unique distinguishing factor from all the other news apps. And so, even though this, shooting our shot didn't lead to anything monetary, it did give us one of our major wins.
Fun fact, actually, Mark Cuban was one of our first 500 users on that. So community building is actually a lot of hard work. It takes 100 requests from your community before one of them actually converts. Take, for example, our advisor, John, who we got intro to by a founder friend who was also invested by Snap. Now, it sounds easy enough considering, we've both been invested by Snapchat, but prior to that, we had gotten on hundreds of calls with people that we had met through our community, but none of them had worked out. Take for this event, for example, you might meet 2 or 3 really cool people, one of them might just reply to you. And that's just like the harsh reality of this entire thing. It's that we always hear these stories where they say like, I met so-and-so and I got this fundraising and changed my life. But it's really a game of numbers. You need thousands of those interactions before one of those actually works out in your favor.
So you've spoken a lot about our fuck-ups, and we feel brutally exposed. But let's talk about our shiny wins again. We got invested from Snapchat, and a lot of leads to like investors and advisors, and that was mainly because of our founder community. Yes, we have tech friends. We got featured on gotten 5 million swipes on the app so far, all thanks to our loyal Evolve user community. So the key takeaway here is that as a founder, you might not have product market fit or all of the relevant experience that you need to launch a startup. But at the same time, whatever you're lacking in terms of experience, you can definitely make up for it through community. Thank you. And we go for questions.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here and also sharing. So I started a long time back. Actually, I also downloaded your app without even knowing what it down. And probably I have some notifications from you also. And one question from my side is, I also told you, right, so I also thought about something similar with my friends, but all the time it was like, yeah, apps, very saturated environment. It's hard to be one of the apps that people are using. And if I recall correctly, you also mentioned that you did not have a tech background, and I do, but I still didn't even think about doing it. So maybe two questions. First, how did you come up with the idea? And second, what was the time you said, okay, we do this, and then how did you manage to actually given that now I'm using it, for instance?
So how we started Evolve is actually a pretty longer story. We had a startup right before that called Benefactory, and that startup was a social startup. The goal of that was to raise donations during urgent crises, and we were partnered with online brands so that whenever something was happening in the news, it would change automatically on someone's checkout page. And so we had worked on several campaigns actually by that point. There was one specific campaign which was a migrant crisis that was happening at the US-Mexico border, which was chaos. The media had skewed the news way too much. It had become like too polarizing at that point. It was like such a big fight between left-wing media and right-wing media at that point, that so much so that this humanitarian crisis was kind of looked at, like a political thing. So a lot of nonprofits actually, and even the brands, they didn't want to raise funds for this campaign. And for us, we were like, this is such a humanitarian issue, it requires the funds, and we need the truth to be out there because it's obvious that these news publications are skewing the narrative. And so we didn't really have that much, social media power at that point, so we decided to cold email a bunch of celebrities actually. We email like Kim Kardashian and Oprah and all of that. They actually replied to us quietly, so it's not that funny. But we did get like celebrities like Kerry Washington, we got fashion designers like Raval Duran. A lot of them like replied to us, and they sort of like, they were like the speaker that, and they started talking about this issue on our behalf. And we raised a ton of, funds for this issue. But then when Priyanka and I were talking about it, we realized that we shouldn't have to rely on celebrities to talk about these issues. And we noticed that Gen Z, millennials in general, weren't consuming content from like the right places. So when we had launched Evolve, actually initially, it was launched as an unbiased news app. Our goal was to just give you just the facts. And so that's the really long-winded explanation of how we came up with the idea. Because it just wasn't unbiased news, but the goal was to also get millennials and Gen Zs to read more. And so that's kind of how we came up with the whole design of, not making them be more than a screenshot. And for us at that point, the inspiration was Tinder. So yeah.
So maybe just a quick question from the audience.
The word evolve, so it helps you evolve but quicker, that's why there's no ease.
Alright, then maybe another question that I can also kind of resonate to this. So how did you know your product was good, but like you needed marketing? So why didn't you just give up and say, how did it happen?
The funny thing is, when you look at numbers, sometimes it's very daunting, right? You see like 3 people download the app and then they like don't stick around. But the thing is, when people stick around and you randomly meet them, like we go to random, tech events all the time, and then even last time we were in New York, we were talking about golf, and then this guy's like, wait, you built golf? And then we're like, yeah. And then he's like, I use it every day. And so we meet all these people, and they're such super fans of the app. So we know we're doing something right, And so that's literally what keeps us going. We also get emails from editors and journalists from around the world all the time saying like, hey, can we write for you? And we're like, I don't know how big you think we are, but like at some point, not today, but at some point. So we do know that, right now media companies are struggling because literally nobody is going to www.bbc.com. Like, literally just making an app that's appealing to the young audience, and it is, resonating with them. So even when other companies are looking at our app, like some of the biggest media, I remember talking to this guy at CPS one time, and he talked about like how what they're focusing on is the age group about like 46, and he's like, these people, because they don't even care to change their toothpaste, so they're not going to change the channel. But for the younger people, I'm rooting for you. We don't know how to talk to them. So that's when we know when we write pop. We get a lot of like in-person validation from not only random people we meet, but also experts in the field.
Thank you for that. And maybe another question which is quite interesting is like, why do you use the concept of anti-social media, but not just news networks?
Yeah, I think, so what we noticed, we did a ton of user feedback and a ton of user interviews. And we noticed that our core users actually, none of them use TikTok or Instagram. And they were using both sort of as this crutch for not being on social media. Because one of the things that Vault does that other news apps doesn't do is that we cover content that's trending on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok. So it soon kind of became our USP. And so we kind of also decided not to align too much with the news app because it just made sense with our core users that being anti-social media aligned with their values. And it just, I think with also a lot of media companies, just to be truthful about with everything, when you build a media company, you need to stand for something. And if you're just a news app, you're going to get lost in the weeds with a lot of the other news apps. And once you have like a defining factor, which is anti-social media, you immediately stand out. So that was also another reason that worked out for us.
Also, just to add to that, like when you think about news app, like if I ask my parents like what's news to you, they'd be like politics and finance and maybe sports, but that's it. But for us, we include so much more content, like interesting stuff that we'd like to read, or like you mentioned, like social media, and like a lot of different things that people are talking about, like hype trends and different cool things that you talk about at a dinner, with friends. And so it doesn't necessarily classify as a news app, and so it's basically like a text discovery content app. And so we just coined it anti-social because literally that's what people were calling it. So, or they call it TikTok for smart people. That's another way, but we can't even take it out. Catchphrase.
Sounds nice. Thank you so much for sharing. And maybe the last question, which I really like to hear, and I need to find it again. Yes. So how would you recommend building a community without a product while avoiding promises you can't keep?
A simple thing is get on social media and start talking about your industry or your space, or the simple problem that you are focusing on. So for us, it was about like biased news at the time. It was about like how nobody has the attention span to read any long article. It was about the fact that people don't read at all. We clearly didn't do any of these things, but we are trying to do that now. We're trying to get on social. We're trying to build our, TikTok following and stuff like that. But you can definitely do that as a head start. So start finding people who are already talking about the problems that you are building for, and keep talking about more and more. So people who resonate with that idea come to you, and then you can also use them to, so that when your product is ready, you've already integrated all of those bits and pieces that people are telling you instead of having a product and being like, okay, now I'm going to find my audience, now I'm going to get feedback. Everything that we didn't do, we should do.
Thank you so much for sharing, and I think this we're done with the question. So again, thank you so much for being here. And one last thing, I got invited by a friend. I think this was the custom emoji which you had. You were meeting with your friends, something like this.
Oh yeah.
I think it was successful, so just wanted to
Thank you.
thank you so much. And
So now let's shift gears and introduce the last speaker of tonight. We have FuckUp. She's a curious and passionate entrepreneur, and she's been awarded multiple tech awards for her startup FuckUp Logistics. She's also the founder of Rebels with a Cause. She's a coach and a mentor for entrepreneurs trying to build their business. She's been featured on CNN, Forbes, and other newspapers. And tonight, I'm sure she's going to share an eye-opening FuckUp with us. Please, let's get some energy for FuckUp. Thank you.
I guess I was going to speak. Thank you so much for having me. My name is FuckUp. I'm originally Austrian, so didn't travel as far as our first speakers here. But I'm very happy to be here. I'm basically going to take you on a little journey. In my generation, we called it a dia show. Today, I'm just going to show you a series of pictures. So I'm in a very privileged position to actually be able to be very frank with you, to really spill the tea, to take you on a journey behind the scenes of what happened during the journey of Lucabox. I don't have to impress any investors anymore. It's just not for that company anymore. So I'm just gonna take you on a roll. I was born in 1978, quite a while ago. And the first cute picture of myself that I found, actually I'm 5 years old here, but I keep that up for now. It shows my personality, I think. So after I was 5 years old, I grew up in Vorarlberg, in Austria, maybe some of you know that. And to get away as far as possible from Vorarlberg to study, you go to Vienna. That's where I studied English and communications, and I started a career in IT, actually. But my first company, the first corporation, it was a startup back then, was BWin, where I was leading IT teams. Then I was actually brought to Switzerland, where I was heading a large IT department at UPC. You have to know that in my family, nobody understood what I was doing at a corporate because they were all entrepreneurs. So my job title didn't tell them anything. But for me, I actually made quite a career of what I considered back then was a career. I was a high potential at UPC. I was invited to strategy sessions with the C-level, and that's when I realized I don't know what they're talking about. I don't have any economic business, any knowledge, any strategic knowledge. So I went and did an MBA, and I also visited Stanford, which was quite inspiring to me because all of a sudden I realized why I always felt like I don't fit in. I question things, I want to dare things, I want to try things, you know, just because we've always done it that way, it never worked for me, and I never quite understood why. And it was during the expedition to the Silicon Valley, actually, where the buck hit me. It was like, why don't I start my own company? Everybody in my family is doing it, so why shouldn't I be able to do it? And it's actually during that time that I met Mike, my co-founder, who's also here today. She's from the logistics space, and she had an idea. So we took this idea, and I was in the privileged position to actually pick the best of the best that I worked with. So I took some devs from my teams. I took Nadia, who you see here with the black helmet. She was doing marketing for Apple at the time, and I won them over for Lucabox. And yeah, this is embarrassing for me, so this is where I feel exposed. This is the first version and the first mock fuck-up of our first app. Basically, the idea was, whenever you want to sell something on eBay or Mercado, as you call it here, you feel so happy because you basically have money coming in, but you also know that, oh my god, I have to package this stuff, I have to somehow ship it. It's a whole pain in the ass. Or you have to meet with the person who needs to buy it, so there's some schedule. Build an app. You take a picture, you tell us the size, you tell us where you live, and you tell us where it has to go to. That was the idea, and I still think it's brilliant. So we did a pilot, of course, as you do. We had 30 volunteers basically selling everything from books about LSD to stones to toilet paper rolls. But it wasn't what it was about. It was about us actually getting out there in the field, picking up stuff, delivering stuff, seeing happy faces, and then package it and then bring it to the post office where we stood in line for 2 hours or something. It was ridiculous. And I thought, okay, I think we might have a case. But then we did the unit economics, and it was a big failure. Nobody, particularly in Switzerland, would ever pay what it costs us to deliver that service. So we trashed it. And it was fine for me, and it was fine for everybody in the team but the techies. I don't know, who in here is a techie? Who writes code? Yeah, it's tough to throw that stuff away, isn't it? It hurts. So the techies were crying, but yeah, they had to roll along with it. We completely pivoted. We said, okay, we're not going to go for B2C, we don't have what it takes. We're going to go for B2B, and we're going to help enterprises to ship in time to their customers. Basically, just-in-time delivery. That's for the first time that actually we got some recognition here in Switzerland, which helped us win some customers. So you see Handelszeitung, some regional newspapers, which all it helped us quite a bit. So in September 2017, we got our first serious customer. It was cranberries, right, for cancer patients. It was also for a good cake. We delivered it, and of course we threw a party. And we threw a party Austrian style, right? You don't stop before the police arrives. Now what I realized is, in Switzerland you don't invite the cops in. Okay, so they didn't find that very funny at all. They said, no, we need to shut it down, and they're not going to come in and have a beer. That's fine. So in November 2017, we launched the first public, we call it the widget. It was on our webpage, and we thought it was genius. We thought, okay, maybe now that enterprises are using it, maybe end consumers like it too. But we realized that they abused the app. Basically, they noticed that if they say, okay, it's in Zurich and it's a very small package, it's only 13 francs, and then they ship a sofa. So we realized that, okay, no, since again we can't do B2C, which is we leave it for now, we stick to B2B. Our first customer was Steg, PCP. It's a big electronic retailer here in Switzerland. And they wanted us to not only do Zurich, but to all of Switzerland. And to be completely honest with you, at that time, we were faking till we make it. Basically, algorithm here, API here. That worked for all of Switzerland. So we realized, okay, now we really have to build some serious stuff. We started pitching, we pitched. We have so many pictures, I'm not going to bore you. You can imagine the story, right? By that time, also we pitched pretty well. So we won the Venture Peak final, which was 110 grand. At that time, it was a game changer. We won the European startup competition for supply chain startups, which was the prize that we were most proud of because the jury was supply chain professionals. So for the first time, we were speaking to people who understood what we were doing. And you can see with this, these 26 were actually really seriously interested, and we won. We closed our first round. We won a lot of supporters all over Switzerland and internationally. And Mike and I went on a strategy, call it weekend in Mallorca, when, not seriously, we also did some more. But our sales manager, he was, anyone who knows sales managers, they need to be intrinsically opportunistic, right? So they're like, yeah, these scooters, these e-scooters are coming to Zurich as the first city in Europe, and I'm sure they need logistics, right? So he just called them up and said, yeah, well, let's do, they're offering logistics. And before we knew it, we were doing logistics for Lime in Zurich as the primary service provider. And in the beginning, we were like, yeah, no, that's awesome. The synergies are mind-blowing. You know, we use our partners that deliver during the day to collect during the night, right? And we just saw cash. Basically, I'm sure you all remember, when they were starting to pop up everywhere. So it was obviously promising. Yeah, it was, but it also became very quickly. You can see in the timestamps that not only were we now working during the day, we were now working all through the night. And the whole team was just working 24/7. There were issues over issues. The technology didn't work. The provider's technology didn't work. Ours, so we didn't even build any at that point. During the day, we were still pitching for Lucabox, the original idea. Signing contracts here with Globus, and really bad fashion, I don't know what to say. In November 2018, Marshmallow, by the way, is Germany's marketing. And that was really my idle investment. I really just wanted to win custom Marshmallow for Lucabox. And we pitched. In May 2019, we've been rolling out to Paris, Vienna, Linz, Zurich, Basel, and maybe you remember, but in Germany it was a big discussion, right? Because, yeah, is Germany going to open or not? Is it too much? And by the way, the top right here burned down. That's just one of the top right warehouse burned down in one night. It's just one of the things that happened. We were looking for scooters in rivers, in lakes, on mountains, wherever. But we were still, rolling. It was still fun, we thought. The biggest contract was then signed, actually this is in Stockholm, Sweden, at Voi. It was the launch party of one of their biggest new scooters. Still on the street today, by the way. It was a very wild party again. Yeah. In the meantime, in Winter Tour, Voi was visiting us to basically discuss some marketing, etc. And it became clear to us that we need to separate the energies. At that point, we weren't lying to ourselves anymore that there are synergies. It was a completely different business. So we created a new brand, and we wanted to separate Lucabox from Sweet because I always had a bad feeling about this. It was too much. It was too fast. It was too big. We were dealing with 23-year-olds on testosterone, flying high on testosterone, like the biggest hero of the time. It was the fastest market ever, the fastest growing market ever, the e-scooter market at that time. So it was something fell off. So we wanted to protect Lucabox. And just to tell you, just one insight, to give you some views into our brains and where we were, how we were feeling, we were going to call it holding Queen's holding. And I think that tells you so much about the state of mind. We thought this was it. That's the golden nugget. We're done. This for generations to come, basically. But so we did some pictures. That's, I think, Hamburg, Berlin. I don't know. I wasn't in most of the cities. That's the team. Those were the operations managers, and they had my Blanco signature. Just because I couldn't get any sleep anymore. Anyways, I was fundraising, I was doing Lucabox during the day, and then at night, all we had was problems. So I gave them my signature. I never knew how many drivers we had on payroll. I never knew how many vans we had leased, how many warehouses we had rented, if the electricity was, up to standard, or if it was going to explode again. It was wild. Yeah. See that? Yeah. See, that's what you see on our social media. What you don't see is that I was breaking down. It was just getting so much. We were trying to get help. We were trying to get a managing director for Sweet. Couldn't find anybody in the staff space. And what we did manage was, because we were being, I don't want to say tricked, but the provider's technology didn't really provide good numbers or correct numbers. So we were paid per scooter, basically. And there were gaps of thousands of scooters. scooters sometimes. So we created our own technology where we scanned, meaning they had to scan twice, once the provider's app, then our app, to really be sure that, we're not getting fucked over here. Meanwhile, they were drinking, smoking, sleeping in the vans, and I'm not kidding, because they didn't know where they were going to have to be in the next morning. So I completely did it. And they still, when they meet today, still they have meetings, and they love talking about that phase. What the fuck? And they say, I want to keep every scooter at sea. So, but this helped us, of course. As you can imagine, we had this. It was a more than 20 million francs contract with Boy. It was easy then to close the round. We won much higher, of course. But we did this with a very high valuation because all of a sudden, of course, we had revenues in half, like 500K a month. So it was serious revenue. By July 2019, and I don't know if you remember that, but the whole mood went sour. People were vandalizing the scooters. The market imploded. The providers, it was war out there. It was a territorial war on the streets. Like who had more scooters in which city and how many rides, etc., etc. So the only way the providers could actually keep themselves over water was to push down on the suppliers. Meaning we would pay less. Meaning we paid our suppliers less. And then came the guy next door with this little van and said, I do it for a fraction of what Hugo Boss does it. So we needed to pull out. And gradually, I think we let go of 2/3, 3/4 of the team, telling them we're sorry, but we went through a month and several million. We went through so much money that we needed to raise again. And at the morning of that day, when I was on stage at the top 100 celebration where we got on board, I basically went to an investor, signing a term sheet which reduced our previous valuation to a quarter. So we were there, we had no money, we had no business, and we just basically sold our soul. That's what it felt. The press, of course, loves these stories. These stupid startups flying high and then abusing the little suppliers. Little did they know that. I didn't speak to the press, I have to say, this is a big learning. I should have spoken to the press. But by me giving no comment, they thought, he's guilty. He's guilty. Basically, they blamed us for not paying our suppliers, but they didn't know that we weren't paid. It's several hundred thousands that they were owing. So by November 2019, we took a hard look at the reality, and we saw that some of our customers are still happy with FuckUp, same-day delivery, 2-hour time window delivery, they loved it. So some investors actually gave us another shot. And we gave ourselves another shot. We rehired a few people, not as many as we had before. We rebranded, and then something happened that was God sent. That's the only way I can tell this. Corona came. And I don't you know where I'm coming from, right? Of course, it was a disaster. But for the state of the company that it was in, it was a blessing. Because all of a sudden people did not want to leave their house. And what do we offer? Home delivery, home pickups. Everything was looking fancy. It was really good. We went to exhibitions again. We were featured in Forbes, CNN, and others. By that time, my co-founder was so exhausted that she left, which was a hard blow for me. We took 2 guys to replace her. One was... I hurt myself, but yeah. One was logistics operations manager at Heineken, and the other one was the previous COO of Microsoft Switzerland. So, not nobody's. And with them, we could continue. And we wanted one of our biggest customers, IKEA. IKEA was very, very keen on, as you know, they're very customer-centric, so they wanted to be able to deliver within 2 hours when you go and buy something at an IKEA store. And it was a very, very successful project. And we hired, I think, 4 or 5 more people after Maite left, and we partied a bit. We gained some good press again, which is really the Corona crisis. Yeah, that's a Corona-conform team picture, you all remember that from. the atmosphere was amazing. We felt like, okay, that's the second high. And for the first time, this felt right. It just felt right. We had amazing talents, we had amazing traction, so seriously, can't complain. But again, as always, in a startup, when you go for VC money, at some point you need to raise it in. And now, you can see in the number of companies that I pitched to, and that's a fraction, because at that point, I was exhausted. I'm like, okay, this is tough. And the main reason for this round being so tough was of course, the Corona crisis, and VC money started to be a little harder to get. Plus, the fact that Maite and myself, Maite was gone, of course, and we had very, very little equity left. So they did not believe me when I said, I'm going to rock this for another 5 years. And yeah, they were right. But we liquidated, I think 4 months later, after a fire sale went wrong. The fire sale would have saved us, at least I think it would have saved our image, let's put it that way. It would have been a success story. Yeah, Lucabox exited. Looking back now, I'm happy it didn't. The company that we were going to sell to was with a toxic culture, but they couldn't buy them because they ran into liquidity issues themselves. I also think, looking back, that's a blessing. But the story, of course, now in the press here is different. And I really appreciated, by the way the press handled this, because I was afraid that they were going to tear us apart. But they didn't. They actually they asked for why, and the way they portrayed us was really, really good, so I'm very happy with that. After that, of course, being, after the CEO and holding shares of the company, I wasn't allowed to get unemployment money. So I needed to find a way to support myself, and I had so many people approach me that, can you help me fundraising? You're asking for that person. But I help with fundraising. I do a lot of fundraising strategy work. I believe every entrepreneur is a rebel with a mission, and we created this, actually Mike is in this team as well. We really help entrepreneurs to fulfill their mission but stay true to themselves. I think that's a big thing. And then I thought, no, I'm never going to do anything techy again. I'm done with this. Screw it. Then I created a mentoring enablement platform for enterprises, which is something that I'm working on right now. I'm loving it. I'm loving the topic of mentoring. I'm just loving the topic of having such an impact. Nothing against logistics, saving a penny here and there and being fast and quick and consumerism, whatever. It's fancy. I'm a big consumer myself. But this is really too hard. So I'm really enjoying this. What would I do differently, or what am I doing differently now? One thing, and it was interesting that Leif said he doesn't have any regrets, because I do have regrets. I wished, and I think I didn't tell you that story now, in the first fundraising round where we got Marshmeyer, we were approached by the lead investor saying, you either do Sweep or you do Lucabox. If you go Lucabox, we're not going to support you. So I forgot to tell you that because it's a crucial moment. It felt wrong. It felt so wrong. I knew we were going to grow very, very slowly and maybe sideways with Lucabox, but at least, I could look in the mirror and feel good about it, but I didn't. So I do regret that. Another thing, choose the people around you well, and here I'm particularly talking about investors. If you have investors that you don't want to get, I don't drink alcohol anymore, but back then I did. If you don't want to get a beer with that person, or talk about their dog or their kids, then maybe it's not the right person for you. And the same for board members. I really underestimated the importance of relationship and connection to investors and board members. It's more than a marriage. It's so close, and it's probably going to be for 6 or 7 years at least. So more than any marriage. And that's something, of course, why I like the SaaS business a lot right now, because in logistics we have an average gross margin of 3 or 4%. So you can just imagine how tough it is and how it's. So don't, okay? Just choose something that has a high margin, because then you have more room for error. Another thing, choose a potentially viable business model. That's also something we underestimated, something like DocuSign or something, that's just cool stuff. And that's another very important point. And all the startups that I coach and mentor, and I think some are here today, That's something I say a lot. Choose well how you fund your business. It's such a big difference if you bootstrap, if you go with angels or a strategic or even a VC investor. If you go with a VC investor, they expect a 10x return. It's a high growth business. They expect an exit. Don't love your business then, okay? You're just gonna work your butt off and hopefully sell it. Otherwise, it's just gonna be a dead, evolve and pivot, but focus. And that's that's a big learning for me with, of course, the scooter business. It was so alluring. It was so much money. It was so easy and it was so fast, and everybody just talked about it. But we should have just improved what we had and made that a lot better. And then, I was in a burnout after Maite exited. And I basically tried to do the Series A in a burnout. So, and it was my second one, so I'm not proud of it, but I thought it was not going to happen again. But we probably have one life. And the way I'm doing it right now is very, very different. So just really prioritize the health. That's it.
Now, especially with the last point, what we do differently, you just stole one of my questions. So I have now a bit harder time to find questions. But one question I was thinking is, you already mentioned some huge competitors. So for instance, this post. If I would even come up with an idea that I would do logistics, my friends would watch me first and they would be like, why do you do this? We have post.
Yeah.
So, what?
I'm saying it on that friends.
But basically, like, what made you actually maybe like avoid those comments? Because even if I'm thinking of anything, I always think of competitors and how we cannot survive. But what made you continue?
Well, logistics, first of all, has more than 100 shades of grey. What we did is something the Swiss Post wasn't capable of. What we did was we enabled retailers to deliver within an hour, 1 hour time frame, almost Swiss time, like not Swiss time, but in bigger cities, in big metropolitan cities. And Swiss Post actually bought our services, and we partnered with them for national coverage. So we built something that nobody in the country was doing at the time. That's why our friends did. And maybe they knew there's more about logistics than me.
Then you mentioned you are basically a fundraising expert for people at least series one.
Yeah.
What would you recommend? Bootstrapping versus VC? Or when did you choose one?
Yeah, there's nothing I can recommend. What I tell the startups that I coach and mentor is I tell them what are the advantages and disadvantages of each path. And then they need to decide for themselves, right? I can't decide that for anybody else. Bootstrapping takes a lot of time. It's probably tedious because you have a side job. But everything you do is your decision, right or wrong. But whatever other profits you have, probably your profits. And it's a company that potentially you can maybe give to the next generation. If you go for a VC, you go for your game any longer. As soon as you accept VC funds, you're part of the VC game. And you need to understand that you need to be high growth or die, basically. They're not going to look at you anymore. So that pressure, and it's something that I speak so loudly about because I felt the pressure so long for so many years, and it almost killed us. It's literally, it's so stressful. But some people are cut out for it. You know, I've met people, they build startup after startup, they know how to play the game, and they understand the game. And they play it well. But it's not, for me as a person, it's not what I would play against.
Thank you for that. And maybe a good question for the, let's say, the young entrepreneurs, right? So you mentioned you were pitching in also competitions and joined many of them. So the question is like, how do you manage time spent on developing product and getting grants like venture capital? So basically, prepare yourself for this while developing it.
So for me, the pitching competitions per se are not a big effort. You need to make sure you have a really good pitch. You need to understand what you're saying, what you're doing. You need to basically anticipate questions and maybe they didn't cover them in the pitch already. And you need to learn 3 or 4 pitches by heart. It's a 1 pitch, 3 minutes, 5, 20, whatever. The product that was basically just, I never felt the two colliding.
And maybe
Yeah, sorry.
no. And maybe the last question also to a general one. What are the most common mistakes you see while you're coaching this?
Most common mistake I see is actually going out before they have any feedback, or not reaching out for feedback. But you know, it always arises the picture of Jeff Bezos in his garage, not speaking to people. I think it's one of the biggest mistakes because it's one of the biggest mistakes. Not really asking for feedback.
All right. Thank you so much. And one last question, because I think the next one. So also small one. If you would like to give 3 teaching tips, what would they be?
Really crystallize the problem, the solution, and your vision into short, concise sentences, and speak slowly. I think be confident.
Thank you so much for sharing.
We've had some, what I would call real talk today. People sharing their ups and their downs, good stuff, not so good stuff. I think it's easy to think of success as simply a series of highs. But our speakers here tonight have shown us through their vulnerable stories that failure is not the end of the story. It's not weak, and it's more a bit like a detour on a journey. The feeling of fearing failure. Just picture this. I'm standing behind stage. I'm nervously pacing back and forth, rehearsing my speech in my head over and over again. My palms are sweaty from the stress. I have this red collar on. And I look at the clock. It's 15 minutes to go, 10 minutes to go, 10 minutes to go. We fuck up. 3 minutes to go, 2, 1, 30 seconds, 5 seconds. And I walked in front of you all here tonight, kind of trying to stand tall with this fake confidence. At this point, my heart is thumping so loud, I feel like everyone can hear it. My palms aren't just sweating, they're kind of trembling. And I take a deep breath to start. And nothing. Not a single word of my well-rehearsed speech comes out. Ladies and gentlemen, this was my absolute worst fear for the last week. Fear is so powerful. But I ask you this. What if you don't fail? What if you embrace the possibility of failure, which can then kind of unlock our creativity, our resilience, and our own innovativeness and growth? What if failure was not the opposite of success, but rather a companion to it? As I hand the word back over to Saba, thank you all for being here tonight. And remember to embrace the stumble, learn from the fall, and with every misstep, you want to step closer to success. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for being here. I hope you feel a bit wiser now since you had the chance to learn from the mistakes of others. And I hope it was inspiring since we were trying to inspire you to take a step and not be overwhelmed by failures. And again, one technical thing, so please keep the link, because we'll try to generate a summary and then we can basically have the summary of the whole event. And other than this, before we wrap up the event, we actually want to thank our speakers, so please come to the stage. We have some gifts for them. So our video events is presenting gifts. We actually have one more person to thank to, so he's among us. And he has been working hard for our club for 1.5 years as a president and also even before. So we tried to convince him to come just because of that. So we'd like to thank to Mr. Rakiki, please. Last event, and he has been working a lot to improve the club. He has done lots of good stuff for us, not as a president, but also as a person. So I hope his successor is as capable as him and can do whatever he did. So thank you so much, Yuri, for being here.
Thank you all for coming. Hope you all learned something new and inspiring today, and see you at the next event next semester.